Hey, what's going on, guys? It is GamerMan here, and welcome to Railroader. Yes, the game Railroader. Today we are starting off with our brand new railroad. That's right, we are starting off completely new, completely brand new, off of the rip. Ain't nothing special happening here. But good God, welcome to Railroader. This is going to be an interesting endeavor because we're just gonna have to see how it goes. We're just gonna have to see how it goes. This railroad right now, I don't really know how to make a lot of the things like I want to have happen, so we're just gonna have to kind of live with what comes and goes. But for now, there we go. Northwestern number 2, and then if we go over to Northwestern 1, who's a little screwed up. It happens in the early stages of the game. Things will occur that just, kind of. This is a common occurrence. This will happen a lot on the railroad, and we're just gonna have to get used to it. It's bound to occur. So our first end objective is to take our character. You will be seeing like TPing and things like that. We're gonna re-rail the 70. Or we're going to re-rail the 1. I am going to automatically switch that whistle because I'm not a big fan of the Denver Rio Grande chime. We're going to give it a more smaller whistle for the engine. Let's see, something a little more fitting for it. Baldwin 3. That's better for that locomotive. And then I think they're both just... They're both the mics and stuff like that. So we'll just give this one an equally smaller whistle. Let's see. LNN3. Select. You know what? That works. That works. So what we have right now is all basically about building and expanding. Right now we got a few repair parts, it looks like, here in Whittier. Buy repair parts at East Whittier. Right now, actually, we don't want to buy repair parts. But we're going to need them for this guy, because he's a little dead. But as you can see, we've only got Whittier to Ella set up at the moment. And we've got plenty of log cars. We're actually going to set, because all of these will fit. I think it's Connolly Creek 2? I'm pretty sure it's Connolly Creek 2. Let me just double check that. Connolly Creek. L2. Yeah, that's the big one. Yeah, so they'll just fit up there. It'll all be fine and dandy. We're going to immediately take the 2, and we're going to get our work started out here on the railroad. So this is going to be an educational series. We're going to do our very best to talk about the railroad history. This railroad takes place in 1940s-ish transition Appalachia. And it is a absolutely balls-to-the-wall fun game. I've been enjoying it a lot. And this particular save is entirely dedicated to YouTube. So you're just going to see this series of the Northwestern on YouTube. Right now, I don't think there's any actual industries set up. Am I right about that? Yep. Oh, hello. There are no industries set up, but what we will do is right now we'll set up the easy ones. While we try and get everything kind of situated, we'll get them set up because they're pretty darn easy. The Whittier ones. We will worry about my brain is spacing, the lumber mill later. So the whole game is taking place in Northwest Appalachia during a transitional period of the railroad. So what that means is that there are steam engines, there are diesel locomotives, and they would have eventually coexisted. But unfortunately, in modern times, the steam engines did lose. They lost out entirely. But we'll just see what you guys want to see. So, right now we're just doing some simple yard work. Probably what I could have done... Actually, that's a good idea. We'll take the one, considering it's technically down... Oh, it is down and out. Okay, it's down and out. So we're going to have to worry about that one here in a minute. But since we don't have any fuel for it, we've got to move this hopper car so that we can get fuel. And believe me, this railroad can get very hectic very, very quickly. Probably our first goal is going to be getting the other engine up and going. Because if we can get the other engine rolling, we can continue our work in expanding the railroad. Now, for those who haven't heard or don't know, I actually volunteer at a railroad outfit. And so I'm actually quite accustomed to doing work like this, like yard work and stuff like that. Now, actual mainline freight, I've never taken care of. But this is a good way for me to learn in some aspect how to take care of it. So, I think if I remember, I also need to set, braking set to low, because that's more legitimate. And then overhaul, you know what, we'll leave the overhaul at 2,500 miles, because it takes actually quite a bit to get that far. So first rule that we're going to learn, just right off the bat, no faster, does it say in the rulebook, to couple than 3 miles an hour. I tend to try and couple a lot slower than 3 miles an hour, but sometimes you done goof and you make a mistake, or you make an error that will cost you. Gently. Very good. Air brake test. Good. Okay. Can we actually get anything worth our while off the bat? No, we can't get the observation car. This will be very crucial in passenger service later, but right now it's not a necessity. Also, we have all these tender swaps that we're going to do, so probably we're going to try and keep our steam engines running for as long and as efficiently as possible. Right now, it's just a matter of getting the railroad organized. So, the other purpose of the game is obviously expansion, because if you look here, there's mainline, there's trackage up to Bryson right here that we could have, but there's also all this stuff down to Silva. All the red you see is mainline tracks right now. It's all mainline, which means we can't access it. This is our end point. We can't go past that point. So we're a little short line, but eventually we'll expand into a much larger railroad, and we'll just have to see where this goes. Where the boring stuff happens, I will definitely be cutting out everything. It'll get cut out. So I will get back to you guys in just a minute. Alright, so yes, Zeus, I hear you. That would be my little kitten, probably trying to get my... Yep, he's on my lap now. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take this up to the coal loader, right there. You're okay, buddy. And we're gonna get this all set up, and then we're going to go rescue the one, so that we can get the one back into service. Most likely overhaul it. Okay, there we go. Keep the air dumped. Buddy, don't steal anything right now. Hang on. Cato being Cato. There we go. Okay. So leave the air dumped. Tie the handbrake. Okay, now we're going to use a fun feature called the waypoint feature. So that what that means is we can just tell the engine, go here. This will be used later on in future endeavors. But what this allows us to do is say, okay, this engine needs to go and do a very specific task at this very specific speed. What we actually need to do here is set overhaul on this whole engine. Which, granted, is a little overkill, but I want this engine to be in full-blown working order. If that is a bad thing, somebody tell me. But once we get the engine put away, I will cut back. So as you can see, engine number 2 here, which does not have a nickname yet, we will see what nicknames we give these particular locomotives, is coming up to attach to the 1. And we're going to send the 1 over into our little shed here. And considering we only have the 2 locomotives, we don't really need... Actually, thinking about it, you don't have that much mileage on you. It would be really stupid to overhaul you. Okay, so now what we got to do is we're going to cut out the 1. Cutting out means that the air compressor on the 2 is no longer going to be operable, or the 1. So it means that if you look here on the bottom left corner, you'll see our handbrake, or our main reservoir system. It's going to cut itself out. Meanwhile, on the 2 here, oh, the 2 still has air attached. Whoops. Okay, so I got to cut it out. There we go. So now, if we do this, yeah, the air brakes will now flow through to the number 1. So I don't understand the concept of how the number 1 has the ability to blow its whistle, even though it has no steam. Doesn't make sense to me. But these little this little mogul here, this 260 mogul, and this 10-wheeler are going to be just fine for what we need to start. There's practically no other reason to get a new locomotive. I don't even think we could if we wanted to. Just looking at our absolute cheapest locomotives. We could get the Reno. We could get the very old 440. We could probably pick that up. It would leave us with $1,000, which is not relatively useful right now, and right now we really don't need the Reno. I might get us the Reno. We'll have to see. We also have the goal, if you look at our safeties, you won't see that we have any like reputation or anything yet. My goal is to have no derailments. This engine at the start is by default derailed. So if we just take our little map here, set the tracks to where we need it, and hear the air compressor start to work. So for those who were wondering, an overhaul would have been a situation where this engine is completely out of its boiler ticket is expired. Everything on the engine just needs to be full blown, taken down, and rebuilt. That is what an overhaul would be. It's essentially a 1472, which is the FRA mandated 15-year rebuild on a locomotive. That would be an overhaul. That is a rebuild that basically says, okay, the engine's been running for 15 years, you've been doing minor repairs on it for 15 years now, or 1,472 days. You need to take this engine and just rebuild it. You need to make sure it's up to code, up to snuff, and then you can operate again. So that's basically what we would do if this engine was at completely dead. If its miles have reached 100% zero, which doesn't make any sense, it's basically saying you cannot run this locomotive anymore. It is beyond its like designated jacket. It is done. It is dead. You can't run it anymore. That would be the case in this scenario. Alright, Now, what I could do is, in theory, even though this engine is at 70%, it's technically operable, but we don't need it until tomorrow, and based on the clock, it'll be well done by tomorrow. So, actually, let's just... Yeah, it'll be done by tomorrow, easy. So what we'll do is we'll assign a crew. We'll get it to ×2, so it'll take less time to rebuild this engine, hopefully. But the hope is that we get that engine rebuilt as quickly as possible. The next objective would be to check if we have any people waiting trackside for a train, which is probably ending up going to be the case. Yeah, we've got 24 people going to Ella. I guarantee you we have people in Ella waiting to come back, because Ella is our end of line right now. Yep, we have 25 waiting in Ella. So now what we're going to do is we're going to send the 2 manually, or actually with an AI, to go and collect our passenger car, which can hold... I think it's like 25... Yeah, it can hold like 60 people. So this one car is more than enough for what we need at the moment. If you guys can think of a name for the number 2 and the number 1, suggest it in the comments down below, because we will absolutely nickname these engines. The other cool thing is you can play this in first person. I like to play it in third person, but you can entirely play this game in first person and run the engines first person on the throttle, everything. It's available. There's even, I think, yeah, there's cab lights that you can have for night ops when you eventually do have them. But I personally like to play in third person and watch the engines roll. Now, because this is now our mainline engine right now, we are going to put class lamps on the front of the locomotive. We are going to put marker lights on the rear tender. Class lamps tell people on the railroad what designation the train has. If there's no class lamps on the locomotive, that is a significant signal or sign that this engine is a scheduled train. If the engine has white marker lights, it's an extra, and it is not on the timetable, which is... Timetable features are not enabled with company settings. We don't have timetables right now. But we will have timetables when the railroad gets much more expanded. And then green signifies the following section to a train. So if we had 2 passenger trains running in the same direction, then and only then would we be running with green marker lights on the second locomotive and no marker lights on the first locomotive. Now, if I'm wrong about that, I will correct myself. These just indicate the back of the locomotive, as far as I'm aware. So what we're going to do is we're going to run our first passenger train, just kind of showing off the railroad, what we have. And passengers are the bread and butter of this game. They are absolutely the moneymaker when it comes to this. And I also have to make sure I don't go over my time and screw up, you know, what time I need to go to sleep, because I have work tomorrow. But yeah, so we're running as an extra, so I would set my marker lights to white, signifying this is an extra train, it is not scheduled. Yeah, we don't need coal right now, we don't need water right now. The journal boxes are another thing. So these are called journal boxes right here on the wheels. This black box you see that's attached to the axle, it basically has oil in it and a padding that the bearing rolls against. They're not called friction bearings, they're called plain bearings. And if these run out of oil, they have the chance to catch the fabric on them on fire, or they'll catch the oil on fire, and that's when you get a hot box. I've never seen a hot box in-game, but hopefully we never have to deal with that, because that would be really, really, really bad. Because if you get a hot box, you have to rebuild the entire axle setup. You have to rebuild that whole thing, and it is a entire pain. It sucks. I've watched crews rebuild axles, and it's hell. It's utter hell. So we're going to try and avoid that at all costs. Personally, I think that we're going to have a lot to do eventually on the railroad. And so we're gonna definitely get a lot. What I just did there was a signal to, if I had a brakeman and conductor, are we stopping at the next station? So the first blast asks, are we stopping at the next station? 3 blasts means we're coming to a stop, and if he said no, we're going through, I would blow the whistle twice, saying nope, we're not stopping here. But since we are stopping, that's why I blew the whistle 3 times. That's kind of what I've understood about situations like that. So I would be very surprised if you all don't know which that whistle code is, but for those who don't, that whistle code indicates that we're going over road crossing. It should be a minimum of 20 seconds before the road crossing. That's usually the goal in mind. Unfortunately, I think I did not hit the minimum 20 seconds, or at least 15 seconds at minimum, 20 seconds maximum between crossings. So while this is going on, we're gonna just let the engine pick up the passengers. I think we're not gonna have a full train. No, we're not gonna have a full train. But there are 8 active waybills in the area. Yep, everything going to Connolly. I thought so. Well, does Connolly have... Does Whittier Sawmill have anything? No, because it's not even active yet, and it wouldn't be active until tomorrow anyway. Which, actually, we could probably set up at Tier 1, because it won't be much, and it'll give us something else to do. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to set the engine to AI. Actually, no, because we're in early game, we don't really need that. So, we've got a full rake of passengers. Let's hit the road. So, the 2 blasts on the whistle pretty much stands for, we are moving forward. If I wanted to go backwards, I would blow the whistle 3 times. It's an intuitive process. It really is. It's all about communication. The whistle is designed for communication. Anytime you've seen photo crews or photo charters where the whistle's being blown like crazy, that's just for a photo charter. That's not like a standard thing. So there's no distinct reason for the whistle to be blowing during certain situations. If there was an emergency, you would blow the whistle like... And that would tell everyone, get away from the tracks. If you've ever seen the videos of Ed Dickinson and the Big Boy, he had to do that at one point to tell people to get away from the railroad. It was a genuine issue that he had. If I remember, the speed limit's about 35 through here. I am in Bryson. How did I manage that one? But yeah, it's all about... The whistle is used for communication. It's not just for fun. It is a communication tool. So is the bell. The bell is a very distinct noise that basically warns people, this is a train, move. And people will genuinely get the hell out of the way. It's what they do. But I don't know why they don't have passengers modeled. But yeah, passengers would sit in here, and you'd have a conductor go through, punch the tickets. We would not leave the station until the conductor gave us the final say. The conductor has final say over when the train is allowed to leave. So if you've ever seen, like, the man in a suit with a hat on the Polar Express, he's the conductor. He would have final say of when the Polar Express leaves. There are 5 roles on the railroad that used to exist. There's now, I think, 2. But there is brakeman, conductor, fireman, engineer, and dispatcher. At least in our case. There's more ranks that I could go through in, like, how my railroad would be if we were to ever visit it. But it's a situation of there are ranks. Brakeman is your lowest rank. They're the ones that sit on the back of the train. They would stand here on the back of the car, and they would protect the train on a shove, or they would take care of, like, coupling things up. That's what they do. The conductor, obviously, is like your security. He would take care of the passengers or your goods, depending on the train, and he would have final say. If you don't have a ticket, you're off. If you are, disobeying or what have you, you're off the train. He would be head of the train, not the engineer. The engineer obviously runs the locomotive. He runs the throttle. He would be sitting on this side of the train, leaning out and checking the right side of the train as you go down the railroad. The fireman, on the other hand, he would sit on the other side of the cab, watch the left side of the train, and he would manage and protect that particular area of the train. But he would also manage the water and the fire. He'd have to keep the water level in the boiler to a operating condition, and he would have to keep the fire at a perfect level by opening and closing the firebox door and shoveling coal in. Or on more modern locomotives, they would be oil fired, and on some really old engines, they were wood fired. And sometimes you'd have 2 or 3 firemen in a cab, depending on how hard you're working the locomotive. It's nuts. So here's the station signal. So I would go check with the brakeman. The brakeman would say, okay, we're coming to a stop here. Or particularly the conductor would be saying that, not the brakeman. I got that wrong, but I'm willing to correct myself. So now we're going to come into the station. I think we can run around the train. I'm not sure. This little sign you see here says that this is the designated area at track speed to begin. Blowing the whistle. That's at track speed. But we're not really going track speed. Finish the chord. So what we're going to do here is we're going to pull up to the station. And we're going to make our first $1. That was a bad braking. That was bad. You would not want to do that. You would wrestle your passengers to high heaven trying to do that. It's not friendly. So this is the end of our line right now. If we go over here, I'm pretty sure the bridge is out. Yep, the bridge is out because of a flood. But if we were to build the bridge, we would get to go from here through to Gov Island into Bryson. And this is actually where I want to start going first. This is my main concern. Getting to Bryson is my main worry, because this is Bryson Interchange. This is a mod I have. It's a much better interchange than the Silva one. But if I want to get to Silva, when I get to Silva, we'll have to worry about the paperboard and all kinds of stuff like that, and I don't want to worry about that just yet. So our main priority right now in the next couple episodes is to build to Bryson. That is our goal. $30, 30 fares. That's $1 a person. Ain't too shabby. We're probably going to get like $25 from this run alone. Come on, get on board. Get on board. So now that everybody's on board, I'm actually going to set this to waypoint. And I'm going to waypoint the train into Whittier Station. Right about here. And if you watch, it comes on. The headlight comes on, the whistle comes on, and what we're going to do is we're going to do what I do IRL, which would be riding the shove. Now what this entitles is protecting the train going this way. Since the engine can't flip around, there would be someone on the back watching the shove. In modern days, a old caboose, or what they are called now as shoving platforms, would ride on the back end of the train. You would have someone riding back here on a shoving platform and essentially just protecting the shove. And that's what they do. That's what they did back in the day. If they didn't have a caboose, brakeman would stand on the back end like this, and he would watch the shove. And he would make sure that the engineer followed the instructions as best he can. In this case, I can use this command system right here to basically tell the engineer, okay, you need to slow down. You need to, watch out for anything that could potentially be happening. It's all about just protecting the shove. Since this is going to be our only passenger train, when I'm done with this, we will cut to doing the log job, and I will show you how that would go. So just around this corner, we'll be coming into LS Station. So, basically, I would have communicated that we're coming to a stop at the next station. And so we're just going to roll right into town here. You'll hear that the engineer will eventually pick up on what I'm doing, and he will start to apply the necessary braking force to bring us into the station. Because see, here's Whittier. There's the station stop. I did that signaling way earlier than I needed to, but essentially, that's what would happen on the railroad. That is the main course of how things would progress. Since we're coming into town, the engineer will eventually start to slow down the train. Once he starts slowing it down and the passengers get off, we will lose the marker lights because we are not a train on the timetable, and we're not technically running a train at all. We'll be stopping. So, as you can see, if you look in the bottom corner, you'll see he's applying the brakes. So we're going to just nice and gently glide into Whittier Station. And that's what a brakeman would do. That is entirely what a brakeman would do. That's his whole job, is protecting the train, working stuff like that. You'll hear the bell kicked on because we're going to cross the road crossing. I think. No, he's not gonna whistle for the crossing because we're gonna stop just shy of it. There we go. Arrived at waypoint. So now the train would get off, and this is where I would start to service the train. So I'd be like, okay, check the journals. Check the journals. Do the journals need oiling? Not really. We would confirm with the crew what is going on. The passengers, as you'll see, will begin to disembark as we get here. We're not going to run another train just yet, but frankly, I don't see us needing to get an extra passenger car just yet. Probably not going to need one until episode 3, I want to say. So, since we're done, the marker lights come off because we're no longer a train. I'm going to keep these on this locomotive. This is going to stay. But I will add to this particular engine, as it has become our passenger train, I'm going to mark it with white stars on the wheels to signify it is our passenger engine for now. And I will work on a paint scheme much, much later in the game. So if you look here, it would have been departing Whittier. We got $26 for 26 fares. Not bad. Actually, considering the work, I'm going to reject this idea. But I will give it some lining. I will give it some little bit of some extra decaling, if that makes sense. We'll give it a little bit of extra good looks. Just to make it look that much more presentable for this railroad. And we will add this as well to the tender. So if we just Add the white lines. There we go. We have our designs now. So we're going to take this engine, we're going to take it back to the yard. And I will catch you guys when we start the log job. Okay, so one thing I've done is I'll point out right here, Gamerman has ordered phase 1 of Ella Bridge repair. I believe there are 3 phases, yep, phase 1 of 3. So we'll get to work on the Ella Bridge site, basically getting it set up. Adds Bryson Yard and servicing facilities. This is crucial to us. This will open us up to having the ability to build and buy more locomotives and have more space to store our stuff. We will then also, once we get this fully set up, it only cost me $1,000, so it's not a huge setback. And we are going to actually, with our passenger train, I'm using the Independent because we don't have a lot of force here keeping us back. I'm going to add the caboose to the passenger train, just so we have that little extra train. We're not going to need the caboose much for any other work. Oh, just short. Just short. So I'll put the handbrake on there and leave the passenger train. So now, oh, let's check on the work on you. Are you doing any better? Slightly. We could technically immediately thrust this engine into service, but that would require getting it fuel and water, and right now, with only having as little as we do, actually it might make more sense to get it set up so that when it is ready, it can just go. I like that plan better. So we're going to grab this and we're going to service it. Technically, I could have bought the tracks flat out to Silva. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's phase 1 of 1, but you have to have 10 grand for that. So that's why we're going for the Ella Bridge site first. It's a much cheaper starting cost, if that makes sense. So we'll get the Bryson Yard and everything set up and what have you. So I will come back in just a... Actually, we'll watch this take place. Because in reality, you would have your crew on the track side manning the switches and stuff. So you'd be watching the switches, making sure you don't foul anything, causing, you know, an inconvenience to the railroad, stuff like that. But in terms of just flat out balls to the wall action, it's all about being steady. It's about being slow. It's about just getting what needs to be done completed as safely and as efficiently as possible. You do not want to be taking the risks and jumping guns and saying, okay, well, you know, this is a game. Regardless, you want to take this very, very slow. Northwestern Railway. There we go. We're going to just add the railroad names under the cab for now. But eventually, there will be nicknames there. So your nicknames, whichever ones you want, will be featured here. And 3 miles an hour, that was a bit rough. That was a bit rough, Captain. Are you still cut out? Oh, I accidentally cut out 2. Whoops, my bad. I'm like, why have I cut out 2? Number 1 should still be cut out. Yeah, number 1 is still cut out. Okay. So we're just going to gently roll We're going to take the 2 out of the shop, or the 1 out of the shop, and we'll get it repaired. I might flip these road numbers around. So, this particular coaling tower only holds 2 tons of coal. It's not a lot, but considering what we have, it's not necessary to own much more than 2. And considering there's practically like 50 tons in here, it's not going to be that biggest issue. So the first thing we're going to service is our working engine. Does it really need it? No, but it's best to keep the functioning engine topped up with coal and water, and then we will worry about poor number 1 over here. You'll also notice that number 1 does not have any marker lights and stuff. It's because it's not in service. We're not using it, so what's the point of having the marker lights on an engine that is not in service? It's not operational, so there's no need to put anything there. If it was absolutely necessary, we could take the 1 and immediately put it into action. We could put it straight into the workforce, and at 70%, it would still be a good locomotive, but it would need more fuel and more water because it's more damaged. So, engines that are more broken in this game consume more fuel and consume more water. It's a problem because if you are burning through this 3 tons of coal and 3,000 gallons of water faster because you're more damaged, it's a liability more than anything. It's a liability to the railroad because you're wasting resources trying to get a locomotive up to steam. That is the biggest issue that we would have in leaving the engine the way that it is and just saying to hell with it and running it. But we're still gonna top it up with fuel and water because when it's fixed, when it's repaired, it's gonna be a good engine for short operations, and it will most likely in later days get replaced down the road. It might even become when we get, because there's a whole branch line right here that we can just set up and have it work. We can have it work that. We can make it do yard work. We never do short locals. The opportunities are there. So this is going to take a while because we've just got this little water plug, and considering it needs 3 tons of coal and we only have 2, it's going to take a bit. So when I get the engine serviced, we will practically wrap it up there. And so now we start the coaling process, and what makes no sense is once it has coal, the engine steams up and is ready to roll at a moment's notice. So that's a little inaccurate. Common practice. So, sorry, I had a business call I had to take care of. So now that the engine is serviced, it's got all the coal and all the water it needs, but we're still going to send it to the shop to get repaired. Now, if I wanted to, I could MU this locomotive, multi-unit the engine, and it would start working with me. The problem with that is it's not really necessary at the moment. Because if we look, the N1 is the 10-wheeler, right? We're going to just pinch some brakes on here just a little. So if we look at the 1710-wheeler, 16,900 pounds of tractive pulling power. I wish this was in tractive effort. Oh, it is in tractive effort. So this is how many pounds it can pull. That can equate to X amount of tons. But we also have this little 10-wheeler right here, which is the Mogul. The Mogul has only 900 pounds less than this 10-wheeler. But right now we don't have the luxury to go blowing money on locomotives. We could get the A12. So that is going to be the first vote of do we buy the A12 or do we wait and save up for a second passenger car. That'll be the vote for this video. But I am going to off camera take care of the log job because I'm pretty sure I've ran for 45 minutes. Let me know if you guys want to see more of this, because if you want to see more of this, I will do more of this. And I will record more videos, and we will get more stuff taken care of. Right now, I'm just going to set the AI to do this job. And it's probably what I'm going to end up doing in the foreseeable future, is setting up the AI for this. 7 cars. I think off the bat, I don't need any more. But I will round this up to an even number right now. So if I go find, where is it? Skeleton Flats, and round this up to 3, it'll leave us with $2,000. Boom. So now we have the extra cars here. These are also going to be set up to go to Connolly. Load at track 2. Set to the others. And I will get this set up so that my freaking OCD isn't going to get mad at me, because right now they're set facing the wrong way. So I'm going to get these flipped around so that they can go and attach to these ones that are facing the wrong way, because I would rather keep the numbers in order, if that makes sense. And I will catch you guys in the next one. If you like this video and you want to see more videos like this, hit the like button down below, hit the subscribe button down below, hit the notification button, become part of the gamer team. Also, check out my creator code. Use code GAMERTEAM at checkout when buying Dubby Energy. That's DUBBY Energy. It's kind of like Gamer Subs, but a little unique and a little different. So, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I will catch you next time on the High Iron.